Okay, well, I think after all these years I may have worked out how 1 Kings 18 tells you when the fire signs occur. We're not moving our prediction extension to Adar 11. The fire signs will occur before then. We're not moving the third fire sign, which is on Adar 7, which is the late partakers' marriage Pentecost, the people who missed all the marriages because they went to the third of the 3 Passovers for each of the third, fourth and fifth marriages. The late first, second and third Watchtower Passover mean that you miss the third, fourth and fifth marriages respectively. But God doesn't ignore these people, nor does Jesus. They are still engaged to be married, and what happens is they had a marriage on Tebeth 18 to Jesus in the ark, and the Pentecost for that is Adar 7, and that's the resolution of the contest. But the second fire sign was more tricky, and this I think is the answer. It's on Adar 6 or Adar 7, which is, Adar 6 is the Sabbath, it's Friday, Saturday, March the 6th, 7th, and Adar 7 is March 7, 8, which is Saturday, Sunday. Elijah goes up to the top of Carmel, which means garden land, and that's our installation over the 2 NCs from Zoar, which happened on 2012 21, the late 2 NC Pentecost, because it was a second installation, so it happens at the late Pentecost, pursuant to our original installation when we were Adamic. And the attendant goes also up, taking that administrative position. It's an administrative installation for both Elijah and the entire administration of Zoar, huge as it is. And he then has to go back 7 times, which is not 7, well, it doesn't really matter. While it's 7 Pentecosts, it does matter, because this is the super Pentecostal pattern. So the 0th Sabbath is 2012 Chislev 21, because there was a no-show actually on the 24th, and on the 25th of Chislev to the 2nd of Tebeth we predicted Hanukkah, and that was a no-show. So by Tebeth the 3rd, the attendant would say there's been nothing at all. Then you go back 7 times actually for 7 Pentecostal Sabbaths, so 7 times from basically 2012 Chislev 21, and that takes you to 2019 Chislev 21, and then you go to the completed version of that festival, which is Shabbat 21, because the Holy Spirit, third Holy Spirit, is appointed over 2 NC Zoar on Tebeth 2 and installed on Shabbat 21, but since it hasn't joined us yet and doesn't join us till Adar 9, they aren't actually operational over us, but they have been installed over us actually. And that completes the Pentecost. So that takes you to Shabbat 21, and then on Shabbat 22 we got the correct prediction extension, and we got the correct fire sign prediction for the third fire sign on Shabbat 23 actually, which is just later in the day, February the 22nd, it was 8 o'clock, we got the third fire sign. And then you go to the next Pentecost after that for the super Pentecostal pattern, which is 2019 Adar 7, the late partakers marriage Pentecost. But he instructs his attendant, does Elijah, to go back 7 times to Shabbat 21. Then it says it came about on the 7th that the attendant said, "Look, a small cloud like a man's palm going up from the sea." Now, a man's palm could either count as 1 time if you just take it as palm, or it could count as 5 times if you take it as meaning curved. The root meaning is curved, and the whole hand is curved, and the purpose of a hand is to grasp something. So if we take it as curved, then it counts as 5 times. And a cloud like a man's curved, it counts as 1 plus 5, and ascending from the sea is another one, which makes 1 plus 5 plus 1, because it's ascending from the sea. You have sea, cloud like a man's palm, ascending, so it's 6 on top of 1, which is 7. And so then what, in other words, Elijah's saying is go back 7 times, and on the 7th time the attendant says 7 times. Or to put it in simple English, 777. In other words, you go back 7 times to a 7th of a 7th. In other words, you go to a 7th of a 7th that's in a 7th. And that is the way that 1 Kings 18 identifies both the second and the third fire signs, because the seventh Sabbath of late partakers' weeks is Adar 6, and that's in the month of Adar, which is the seventh month of the third presence, and it's also in the year of the seventh Tammuz 1 and Tishri 1 year of Zoar. So it's actually 7777, but certainly it satisfies 777. And as regards the Pentecost itself, on Adar 7, well, that's the seventh day of the seventh month of the third presence in the seventh Tishri 1 or Tammuz 1 year of Zoar, and they're all in the seventh millennium actually, but I don't think that's being referred to. So that's what you need to look for. The solution to 1 Kings 18 is the seventh of the seventh after having gone back 7 times. In the case of the first fire sign, it occurred on Chislev 20. It started on Chislev 20, 2010, the largest fire in modern Israel's history that killed, I think, 20 or something people on Mount Carmel. Made this mushroom cloud coming up by the coast, because Mount Carmel is by the sea. In the case of that fire sign, Chislev 20 was the seventh Sabbath of the late 2NC weeks, or Pentecost, resulting in going back 7 times from, well, either from the Laodicean installation on 2003 Tebeth 21, third over the 1NCs after FGS 3 and after us, and hence at the late 2NC Pentecost, that being the installation to feed. When you're installed over the 1NCs, you're installed to feed at the 2NC Pentecost, you're installed to rule at the 1NC Pentecost. When you're installed over the 2NCs, you're installed to feed at the 1NC Pentecost and installed to rule at the 2NC Pentecost, because they're 3.5 years apart, so you can't be installed to feed and to rule at the same Pentecost, because you're installed to feed 3.5 years before you're installed to rule, so you've got a 6 months discrepancy there, and that flips you from the 1NC to the 2NC, or from the 2NC to the 1NC. So again, with the first fire sign, it was the seventh of the seventh after having gone back 7 times. Now with Laodicea, there is no super Pentecostal pattern, because they don't make any predictions, so they don't have a no-show, so there's no 0th Sabbath. I mean, the whole church is a no-show, but that isn't a no-show 0th Sabbath. The whole church is a no-show in the sense that they don't show themselves to anybody. So that's basically it. Now, you go either to the 7th Sabbath or to a 7th of a 7th, which you get to having gone back 7 times to 7 Pentecosts, basically, in a super Pentecostal pattern. Now, the last Pentecost that we've got this year, before Nisan, is the late partakers Pentecost. There aren't any more this year. The next one would be the 1NC Pentecost in Sivan next year, which is too late. So this contest must be resolved this weekend. But the reason for the second fire sign not having yet occurred is that it must occur at the 7th of the 7th, which could, like the third fire sign, be the 7th day of Adar, which is the 7th month of the third presence, in the 7th Tammuz 1 Tishri 1 year or so. But it also more likely, I think, would be the 7th Sabbath of the late partakers marriage Pentecost, which is Adar 6. So that's why we're predicting Friday, Saturday, Sunday, March 6th, 7th, 8th for the second fire sign in New York, we think. Manhattan producing rising mushroom cloud over the Hudson, and then we're predicting Adar 7, which is March 7-8, which is Saturday, Sunday, for the third fire sign, which we think is in London, producing a mushroom cloud over the Thames round about Dartford. And that should conclude it. I'm sorry it took me so long to see that it's the 7th of the 7th after having gone back 7 times. But on the other hand, I was never supposed to get it until the date I got it, because the Quere account of Elijah's prayer, it came about when the grain offering went up. Elijah approached, became near, and what that means is the nearest grain offering going up to the fire signs, which is Shabbat 2, actually, there is one more Pentecost, but it's the installation of the third Holy Spirit's already occurred. There's Adar 21, which is the 5th 2NC Pentecost, or the late 4th. But even though that is actually when the third Holy Spirit becomes operational over 2NCs, they were installed at Shabbat 21. Anyway, Shabbat 2, and then you go, the credit count is 20, So that takes you, if you count inclusively as one does with the Pentecost, to Shabbat 21 from Shabbat 2. And that's, give me the answer. And got the answer not on Shabbat 21 whilst I'm still praying in the 20 days, but on the next day, Shabbat 22. Hence the prayer didn't go for a 21 count, but went for a 20 count. And then if you do the Ketib sentence count of the prayer of Elijah in 1 Kings 18:36-37, it's 38, and that takes you from Shabbat 2 to Adam 9, when the third Holy Spirit joins the church, and that's when all the hearts are turned around, as they should be. And that's after both fire signs. So I was never going to get it, actually, until Shabbat 22, and the hearts were never going to be turned around until Adam 9, in general, although I think there are some. Laodicea, the stretched hand of the Moses of Laodicea runs over the sea. It counts as 6 times dead, 6 months dead, from the installation of Laodicea on Elul 5 to Adar 5. So the power that the Laodicean administration has over their own church ends on Adar 5. So they get divided then, I believe, and we should see them then, or slightly before then, or something like that. And also we now have the deluge beginning on Adar 5, the 40-day deluge. That's a tricky one. You work it out from Genesis 14, or I do, where Abraham has these 318 trained men that he gathers, and whenever you gather men you have to add them up, and there's 318 of them. And they run from the fall of Laodicea, when Abraham has to gather his men because Laodicea are no longer a true church, and draw them out, and for 318 days, which is basically 11 months less 12 days. So that takes you to Chislev 10, which is the end of Zoar entry. So that's the 318 men of Abraham. But then he divided his forces by night, and he divides them into the ark and on the planet. So the end of ark entry is 318 divided by 2, 159 days, plus Abraham is 160 days. And then having divided his forces, he chased after them all the way to Hobab and recovered everybody. And Hobab means hiding place. And it's not Zoar. Zoar is Damascus in the symbolism of Genesis 14, because it means well-watered land, Damascus, according to Wikipedia. And Zoar is a well-watered land. But if you miss Zoar, you get seized for the kingdom, you get hidden by Zorats in some type of hiding place, which is Hobab. And the last day of kingdom seizing is Tebeth 10, but you don't get assured a kingdom place unless you get passed over on Tebeth 14, 2020. So the absolute last day of knowing you'll be in the kingdom is if you're Passover executed in the OMC on 2020, or if you're Passover and not executed if you're in the FRC on 2020 Tebeth 14. So you count back 160 days from there and you get the last day of ark entry, and that would be Ab 4. And that means that the flood begins 7 days later, which if you take it inclusively is Ab 10. And that's the perfect day for a lava flood to begin, because it's temple burning day. So the temple of Adam begins to be burnt on Ab 10. And the other great thing about starting the flood on Ab 10, 2020, is it lasts for 40 plus 40 days to Tishri 30. And Tishri 30 is the last day of the Jubilee, of the Third Kingdom Jubilee, which is our release from Adam. And we're released from Adam in the sense that Christian Zoraites become non-Adamic. They're Passover executed if they're in the OMC on Tishri 14 and resurrected on First Fruits on Tishri 20. Non-Adamically, that's their Jubilee restoration. And if they're in the FRC, then they just get passed over on Tishri 14, they're already non-Adamic. And so, either way, all Christian Zoraites become non-Adamic and escape from Adam in the Third Kingdom Jubilee 2020, the month of Tishri. However, not only that, but they escape from Adam in the sense that there aren't any other members of Adam around. Not only do they become non-Adamic, but the other members of Adam who aren't Abrahamic are killed by the lava flood by Tishri 30, by the end of the same month. So by Tishri 30, it's not actually the complete end of Adam, because non-religious sons of the 1AC, who are constructively Abraham but haven't finished their testing, are still Adamic. And likewise religious Babylonians in false religion, non-Christian religions, those guys will still be around, and they'll be Adamic but constructively Abrahamic, but still under test, so yet to be determined whether they get sealed. So now we start the flood on Ab 10, and we finish ark entrance on Ab 4, which means ark entrance began on Tishri 5, which is the late Zoa Pentecost, for the third marriage on Tishri 17, when the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, which means curse reversed, which stands for, first of all, the curse of the Gentile times being reversed. Gentile times was ended on 2019 Tishri 15, that's the Gentile times from 607, but with a 98-year Maccabean gap, proposed originally by Dr. Stephen E. Jones of the Worldwide Church of God, but refined by this church till we got it right, we hope. And then it's also the curse reversed of Laodicea, which was a false church but had its curse of a wilderness penalty reversed and became reappointed as a true church. And it's also the curse reversed of aging. When you get into the ark, you stop aging and start de-aging or something, which would be, to put it mildly, fantastic. So there we are. Those are the major changes we now have to make to our chronology. Move the flood to Ab 10, move the ark to last day of ark entrance to Ab 4, which means last day of CRC ark entrance is Sivan 4, which also means that since CRC sealing takes 50 days, that the last day of the 4EC baptism is Nisan 14, 50 days before Sivan 4, which means that that's the end of the 40 days of the deluge, which means that the deluge starts on Adar 5, which is where I started this rather long journey. So let me give you the whole thing. Adar 5, beginning of the deluge. 40 days later, Nisan 14, end of the deluge, end of the 4EC baptism. 50 days of sealing later is Sivan 4, end of CRC sealing, end of CRC ark entrance. 2 months after that, for the unclean animals going in 2 times, is the end of FRC ark entry, end of total ark entry, which is Ab 4. 7 days inclusively after that is Ab 10, beginning of the lava flood, and 40 plus 40 days after that is Tishri 30, end of the lava flood, and end of the Third Kingdom Jubilee, our release from non-1AC Adam, which is faithless and loveless Adam. From that day forward, the only members of Adam left will be those who are in the 1AC and are under test to see whether they make it into the kingdom. Okay, thank you very much.